Hey guys, today I'm going to be teaching you everything I use to maximize damage in the campaign. So that means how to get strong weapon bases, how to craft a weapon, when to check vendors and what to check for, as well as some other tips and tricks I use to get the best weapons I can possibly get throughout each act. I'm going to be using crossbows as an example, but this applies to any weapon type, including talismans. Before we get into it, I just want to emphasize that weapons are super important. Having a great weapon can sometimes double or even triple your damage versus having a bad weapon. So it's super important stuff. It's like a make or break for your build. So you just started on the beach and you picked up a makeshift crossbow. The first time we're going to be putting effort into getting a new weapon is in the Red Veil. In the Red Veil, there are rusted arms and refined arms. These drop weapons of different types. The full set of arms in the zone collectively guarantees at least one of every weapon type, except for spellcasting weapons. Because of this, if you open all of them, you'll always find at least one weapon suitable for your class. These weapons essentially take your damage anywhere from a 1.2x to a 1.5x, so they're super important for the Rust King and onwards. You can also reset at checkpoint and farm these refined arms, but I would generally recommend not doing that. If you don't find one before the Rust King, we'll just buy one in the vendor after killing the Rust King. So we just killed them. We're going to go back to town to get Renly's spikes, and at the same time, we're going to sell all the loot that we got from the Rust King after identifying any rares, unless there's something we desperately want to equip. Then we're going to check for a crossbow upgrade, as well as any damage on gloves and movement speed on boots. We're ideally looking for lightning damage, which we do actually find on the gloves in the vendor here. Next in priority would be fire damage, cold damage, and physical damage. The reason we want lightning damage so desperately is for that 20% more damage from the shock. So I think here I opt to go for the 1 to 6 lightning damage gloves, even though I already have 2 to 3 physical damage gloves, because the shock from the lightning damage is just so important. That's going to basically increase our damage by 20% more on bosses, right? So, even though I could get a very obvious 17% IPD upgrade on the bow, the uh, the lightning damage on the gloves is just so important. Next, we're going to do the cemetery trick. If you don't know what that is, it allows us to get access to level 11 weapons from both Assinia and Draven. This isn't too important for crossbows, but you definitely want to do this bow or for bows or maces, and possibly some other weapon classes as well, like talismans for the new druid class. Essentially, how this works is we enter the mausoleum. That is going to turn Tomb of the Consort to a level 9 zone. If we do that, so as you can see, before we enter, it's a level 8 zone. In a second, we're going to go inside the mausoleum, and you'll be able to see that it goes up to level 9. So here, I'll show you exactly how that works. We enter here, we can open up our world map, and as you can see, Tomb of the Consort has gone up to level 9. This works the other way around as well. Once we enter the tomb, any new instances of Mausoleum that we create will be level 9. So we leave, enter the tomb via the checkpoint, and now we've got a level 9 zone, as you can see in the top right. But yeah, this isn't important for crossbows, as crossbows get a new base at level 10. It's mostly for other weapon classes that get a new base at level 11, for example, Warden Bow and Forge Maul. We don't really know what level the talisman base will be, so I would just recommend doing this out of safety. One more thing to mention in the cemetery is that you do want to go for the guaranteed ring. There's a sarcophagus that gives a guaranteed ring. It's either an iron ring or a lazuli ring. It's a 50-50. In this case, we got a lazuli ring, but that had an equal chance to be an iron ring. Iron rings, huge damage boost for attack builds. Definitely want to pick that up. So here, I just wanted to show you guys the power of the lightning damage gloves we picked up earlier. So we're going to hit this boss, and after a little while, she's going to get shocked, dramatically improving the speed at which we can kill her, right? So any second now, she's going to get shocked. There we go, she's shocked. But yeah, so these gloves are clearly super important. They're increasing our damage by 30+% just from the gloves alone, but then they also allow us to shock bosses, increasing our damage even further. That's probably like a 40% more damage multiplier when factoring everything in over the duration of the boss. So absolutely massive damage increase just from the gloves. By the way, I am going to be streaming on League Start. I'll be playing with a group, and we're going to be pushing the boundaries of what is possible as a group on League Start. So yeah, we're going to be trying to get as much currency as possible. So tune in at twitch.tv/guy_that_dies_ if you have any questions. By the way, when you do finish a senior and go to the mausoleum, make sure to create a new instance by control clicking on the zone when trying to enter. If you don't do this, you might be in your old level 8 instance, and we want to make sure it's a level 9 zone for those weapon bases. After killing Lachlan, we still have a white dense crossbow, so we're going to go back to town. By the way, don't pick up that quest item, it lets us skip a cutscene on Una. So we're going to go to Renly, filter the vendor with our regex, and we're checking for a strong magic crossbow. We do get a few good options here. 50% IPD, 8 to 12 fire damage, as well as elemental damage with attacks. I'm pretty sure fire damage is the strongest here, but the other two would be great as well. This is going to massively increase our damage. I believe we go from around 49 damage to 84. We can see that here. 49 damage to 84. Super important that you get a crossbow with damage on it. In this case, we got super lucky. This is probably the second best mod we could have gotten. The best being lightning damage. But you can see the power of checking your vendors and getting a stronger weapon is especially important to do after Lachlan if we don't have a good weapon yet. So the next crossbow we're going to be getting after this is the level 10 crossbow. For some builds it's level 11. We're going to go back to town and essentially repeat the same thing again, but this time we're looking for a sturdy crossbow instead of an intense crossbow. As I said, if you're playing another weapon class, the level you need to go back might be different. For bows and maces, I believe it's level 11. If you're unsure, I'll leave a link to PoE2DB in the description so you can check what level your base is. Yeah, we got a relatively bad magic crossbow, but it's still an upgrade because the weapon base is just so much stronger than the tense crossbow that even though it has a weaker mod, it still gives us a big damage boost. So definitely want to be looking out for that level 10 or level 11 weapon. Moving on to the Ogham Village, we get the smithing tools, Artificer's Orb, and the Blank Rune. We're going to be taking these so that we can slot in a lesser Storm Rune onto our level 16 crossbow in Act 2. Again, this is for the shock. It's going to greatly increase our damage, especially on bosses. Definitely not something we want to be skipping. So then we go back to town, we get the Storm Rune by handing in the Blank Rune. And again, whenever we're in town, we want to check for any weapon upgrades. In this case, I find a pretty good upgrade, 5 to 12 cold damage instead of 3 to 6 fire damage on our current crossbow. Every little upgrade really adds up, so make sure you're looking out for upgrades, gloves, rings, weapons, they all really do add up. And finally, the last big tip I have is how to actually craft your crossbow. And we're going to be using a level 16 varnished crossbow as an example. The first thing we're going to do when we get to Act 2 is check for a good magic weapon. High lightning damage is ideal. Something like 1 to 40, but any damage type works, including % IPD, as long as the roll is high. You can check PoE2DB for the best available rolls at this level, which is level 16. As we can see, we got a 1 to 34 lightning damage crossbow here. Definitely buying that. Normally I would wait till level 16 to craft your crossbow. That way we get more opportunities to just get a good natural drop. But since I just made this character purely for this video and I'm not continuing, I'm just crafting it now. So, we got a weapon that has good flat damage. I would say anything over 1 to 30 lightning damage is good enough to craft, but it does depend a bit on your currency situation. Again, you can check PoE2DB for the rolls you can get here. I'll put a link in the description. Basically, what we do with the weapon craft is we have our crossbow, and what we're going to do is we're either going to use an essence that gives us damage, but we don't have one, so we're just going to chuck on a regal since that's all we can really do. We got insanely lucky here, almost 80% IPD. After regaling, you're basically just going to be throwing on Exile orbs until you hit 3 full prefixes. You can hold Alt to see how many prefixes versus suffixes you have. This weapon has 2 prefixes and 1 suffix. And we're just going to chuck on an Exalt in hopes of hitting a prefix. We end up getting a suffix. Unlucky, what can you do? We have no more Exalts, there's not anything we can really do. Once you've used your Exalts, we're going to chuck on an Artifice Orb and slot in our Lesser Storm Rune, as well as any other damage runes we might have gotten along the way. I don't have any, so all I put in is a Storm Rune that I took from Renly. After that, I would put any whetstones on. You'll probably get a few in the Modern Quarry as they are a guaranteed drop. This weapon is now strong enough to take us to level 33, where we would get a Bombard Crossbow, or if you're playing another build like Poison Bows, you might want a Cultist Bow, or if you're playing Maces, you might wait until the Leaden Great Hammer or something like that. You basically follow the same methodology here as on the level 33 weapon, but you generally want to avoid using lesser essences on the level 33, because by that point the flat damage is just so low that on average a Regal Orb is going to give us a nicer outcome. If you do have like a +2 proj, 1 to 70 lightning damage magic bombard, you can just chuck on a lesser essence to guarantee a decent crossbow. You kind of just have to play it by ear, look at your currency situation, and just think about what you think you should do. If you're desperate, there is the option to wait until you get a good essence, like a non-lesser damage essence. But generally, I wouldn't recommend that. They start dropping at level 36, so I think that's around Jaquani's or Chimeral Wetlands is the earliest time you can get that around there. Also, another thing about the Bombard is that we would exalt it until we get all 6 affixes. Whereas on the level 16 crossbow, we only care about the prefixes. The reason for this is that we're going to be using the Bombard crossbow for a long time, so even though it's a really small chance, we are going to be putting effort into going for the plus proj, which is a suffix. So if you do have plus proj on the weapon already, no need to exalt the 3 suffixes, just make sure you get at least 3 prefixes. And the same thing goes for the level 59 Cannonade crossbow. Last thing to mention is that you can get guaranteed greater runes in the Act 1 Interlude Zone Halton. I highly recommend finding the vendor that sells those. They're going to help you with resist as well as your damage on your weapon. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys found this useful. I'll also be dropping a video about how to best use the league mechanic in the campaign, so be sure to check that out too. I'll go over like how to use the currency that you get to craft your weapons, when you should use that currency, etc. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you.